Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
Everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 230 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from a meeting room at my hotel in Grapevine, Texas, where I'm in town to deliver a situational awareness program for the safety managers of Eagle Materials Corporation. Today's feature segment, I'm going to explain how your brain can confabulate a reality and how a confabulation almost caused a police officer to shoot an unarmed man. If you're new to the show, stick around after the feature segment and learn more about our mission, how you can attend or host a live event, and how to get connected with us on our show's social media channels. Okay, let's jump into our feature segment on the potential tragic consequences of a confabulated reality. Expectations are based on information gathered or shared. If that information comes as you arrive on the scene of a situation, then you gather some information and then you form expectations about what is happening and what you will do next. Sometimes that information is shared with you over a radio or over a cell phone or over a text message. And when that information is shared with you, that information then helps you to form expectations about what you're going to be seeing or hearing or dealing with when you arrive on the location of the problem. Those pieces of information shared with you then become puzzle pieces. These puzzle pieces are then assembled in the brain to help us to form understanding. We gather those puzzle pieces during size up, or we gather those puzzle pieces based on information shared with us by others. Those puzzle pieces are then fit together to form a picture of understanding. But sometimes there are puzzle pieces missing. Sometimes we don't have all the information. Sometimes we're not able to have all the information. Sometimes the information shared with us by others is incomplete or maybe even inaccurate. And they may not even know they're sharing inaccurate information with us. Or the information that is being shared with us doesn't make sense. It's confusing. And the brain does not like confusion. So as it's trying to assemble the puzzle, if the pieces are missing, that's confusing. If the pieces don't make sense, that's confusing as well. So the brain is trying to fit together all these mental puzzle pieces of clues and cues and information that we're hearing and observing ourselves in an effort to try to make sense out of what is causing the information to be confusing. The brain will try to figure out how to get all the puzzle pieces to fit together and to make sense. At this point, it's when missing information the brain can start to confabulate. And confabulation means that the brain is making up its own reality. the brain is essentially lying to you. Well, sort of lying to you. You see with using your mind's eye, you form pictures of understanding. When you're looking at the picture in your mind, if some of the information is missing and that is causing confusion, the brain can search through past experiences and draw information out of past experiences and fill that information in with what it thinks should be there. And sometimes that information is accurate and sometimes it's not. But that filled in information based on past experiences is a confabulated reality, because it's not based on any factual information that is gathered or heard. It is based on information of what your brain thinks should be in that hole of missing information. It is giving you a perception of reality, but not necessarily true reality. So the brain can make up its own information, and it's very good at doing this. In fact, you might think that I've had a little bit to drink here tonight when I tell you, which I haven't, when I tell you that you, the person who is watching this episode on YouTube or listening to this episode now while you do something else, you, my friend, are hallucinating. And so am I. We're all hallucinating all the time, every day. We don't even realize it. How can I say that so factually? In our eyes, there are nerves that gather visual information. Those nerves take that visual information and turn it into electricity and send it back into the brain. But there is one spot in each of the eyes where there are no nerves at all. It's called the optic disc. And it's the point where the information starts to make its trek back into the brain. And because there are no nerves at the optic disc, we have no ability to see where the optic disc would be gathering information. So therefore, we have in each eye a blind spot. Now, as you look out on the world, you're probably thinking to yourself, Rich, you're delirious. I have no blind spot. If I had a blind spot, then when I looked out over here, I wouldn't be able to see anything. Or if I looked out over here, I wouldn't be able to see anything. Well, what your brain does is it fills in the blind spot with what it thinks should be in the hole. In other words, it confabulates the reality of what is happening around you. And it does this by taking a bunch of calculations about what it has already observed about your surrounding and fills it in with what it thinks should be there. Even if it's not true reality, you may see it as if it is there. So, let me segue into a class that I was doing where I had this conversation with the students in greater detail, of course, about how we confabulate reality. And in that program, I had a police officer raise his hand and share this experience. He said he was responding to a report of a domestic violence call. And while he was on his way to the call, the dispatcher told him over the radio that it was reported that the assailant had a gun. That officer then explained to the class that what he did while he was going to the call is he mentally rehearsed his what-if scenarios about what he might do if certain things were happening when he arrived. For example, he said, what would I do if, when I arrive, this person, when they see me arriving, starts shooting at me in my police car before I even have a chance to get my vehicle stopped or exit my vehicle? What will I do if that happens? And while he's responding to this call, he's playing this scenario through his head and thinking about what he would do. And then he might have played another scenario that said, what do I do if I arrive on the scene and I don't see this person at all? Maybe they're hiding out, waiting to sniper me. What would I do if, as I arrive, I don't see anybody? And he's playing this scenario through his mind as to what he might do. And then he played a scenario through his mind of, what do I do if I arrive and the two people are inside the residence, obviously fighting, and yet I'm alone? Do I try to make an entry, or do I wait for backup and other support? What would I do if? And he's playing these various different what if scenarios through his mind, knowing that this person is armed with a gun. As it would turn out, as the officer arrived on the scene, the alleged perpetrator and the victim were in the front yard of the residence, and they were having a heated argument. As the officer approached, he approached from a direction that the assailant had his back to the officer. Now, this was not at all by design. It's just how it happened to work out in circumstance. So the officer was able to get relatively close to this person without him seeing the officer. The officer stopped his vehicle, put it in park, got out of his vehicle, knelt down behind the door, taking a position between the A post or the front post of the roof and the front post of the door, and drew his weapon and gave a lawful order for the assailant to drop his gun. And the assailant put his hands up, and the officer then came out from behind his car, approached the assailant, again with his weapon still drawn, and as he approached, he looked for the gun that the assailant had dropped, and he didn't see it. And he asked the assailant, he says, "Where is the gun?" And the assailant says, "I didn't have a gun." Then he turned to the victim and he said, "Where did he drop the gun?" And the victim said, "He didn't have a gun." And this really disturbed the officer deeply, because what he said to the class, and he was obviously shaken up as he was sharing this, he said, "I easily could have shot an unarmed man, because as I arrived and as I took my position behind my vehicle, I saw a gun in his hand. I saw it." He said, plain as day, "I saw the gun in his hand," when in fact, the person didn't have a gun at all. And the officer said, "I already had it in my mind that I was going to give him a lawful order to drop the weapon 3 times, and if he refused, or if he turned on me with the weapon in his hand, I was going to have to use deadly force to resolve this issue." He said, "I almost shot an unarmed man, a person that I could see the gun." He said, "Every scenario I played through my mind as I was responding to that call was, what am I going to do if, and had a gun in that scenario." He said, "Not one time while I was responding to that call did I play through my mind a what if he doesn't have a gun scenario, because the information that was shared with him by the dispatcher was that the individual was armed with a gun. So the option, the mental option of this person being unarmed was not even in the realm of possibility in the mind of this officer. Every scenario he played through in his mind's eye showed this person with a weapon, and the officer rehearsing what would he do when he arrived, dealing with different scenarios that involved this person with a weapon. This officer had confabulated a reality. Now, we don't really like to think that our brain will make up information like this, but it can, it does, and it will. And it can also eliminate information if things don't make sense. Your brain can see things that truly are there that it doesn't even see. So it can make up information, or it can erase or eliminate information that just doesn't make sense. And this is visual information as well as audible information. We see what we want to see, and we hear what we want to hear, all based on the brain's ability to confabulate its own reality. Since 2007, the SA Matters instructors have helped more than 1,200 organizations and 65,000 individuals improve high-risk decision-making and situational awareness. This includes first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and more. If you work in a high-risk, high-consequence decision-making environment, I'm here to help improve your safety and your survival. And I want to help you accomplish the most important mission of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. I would like to take a moment to honor and thank the companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for their team members. The Ohio Fire Chiefs Association Conference in Columbus, Ohio. The Evansville Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana. Fire Rescue International in Dallas, Texas. The Northwest Fire District in Houston, Texas. The Missouri City Fire Department in Missouri City, Texas, and the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Honolulu, Hawaii, which, by the way, that trip got cut short because of Hurricane Lane was making landfall, and they had to send all the ships out to sea, and therefore my purpose for being there was cut short. I put some videos on my Facebook Live from Hawaii as the storm was coming in. If you missed that, you can go back to my Facebook and look at some of those. Anyhow, I'm going to be going back to Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard now in the springtime to do kind of a makeup for the lost consultation work that I was not able to do because there were no ships in the shipyard thanks to Hurricane Lane. And of course, where I am now in Grapevine, Texas. And by the time this program airs, I will be on the second day of a 2-day program for the Odessa, Texas Fire Department. If you're interested in attending an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event, on September 22nd, I will be at the Columbia Shoe Swap Regional District in British Columbia, Canada. On September 24 to 27, I will be doing consultation work for the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Kittery, Maine. On September 29th, I will be presenting at the Badger Firefighters Association Conference in West Bend, Wisconsin. On October 12, I will be presenting at the Minnesota State Fire Chiefs Association Conference in St. Paul, Minnesota. October 13 and 14, presenting for the Boggs Run Volunteer Fire Department in Benwood, West Virginia. October 17, the Association of Canadian Ergonomists Conference in Sudbury, Ontario. October 19, the Loudoun County Fire Officers Seminar in Loudoun County, Virginia. October 22 to 27, I will be at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Bremerton, Washington. October 28th, the Clearwater Regional Fire Service in Alberta, Canada. And then October 29 to November 1, back at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard in Bremerton, Washington. To see the locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events, just go by the SAMatters.com website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. If you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage, and I'll give you a call and we'll get something set up. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there's a couple of ways you can do that. Check the show notes for how you can get connected through our newsletter membership, our podcast subscriptions, YouTube subscribers, and followers on our social media of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There I share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 230 of the SA Matters show is complete. Thank you to our awesome sponsors, Midwest Fire and Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, organizations, and associations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted live, virtual, internet-based training events. And thank you to the more than 2,000 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SAMatters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.